So recently I was able to see the latest Stephen King movie adaptation, The Dark Tower, and it sucked. Oh, and I also saw the new It movie.
When you're a kid, you think the universe revolves around you. You think that you'll always be protected and cared for. Then, one day, you realize that's not true.
But like The Dark Tower, I thought it was not good. And it's kind of shocking to see how many people are either in love with this movie or say that it's like one of the best horror movies that's come out recently. And I really don't understand why. I've watched a lot of reviews, I've read a lot of reviews, I've read articles about it, and I don't really get it. Most of the time I've been reading through or watching these reviews or articles, everything seems to be a little vague on it, on why they liked it. It usually just comes down to, I thought it was scary, I thought the clown was neat, and I liked the kids. And for me, all three of those things were not true. Of course, the horror genre is a big subjective thing where one person can get a completely different experience out of this, whatever you're watching or reading or whatever, because horror seems to scare people very differently. Where, I mean, we have like phobias, irrational fears of things that many people don't share. Like, some people are afraid of heights, deathly afraid of heights. Other people are afraid of snakes. And the list goes on. And so when you go see a horror movie, most people are going to get a different experience out of it than you do. And I definitely could say that this horror movie is not my kind of thing. That, I think, partly has to do with the fact that I'm not scared of anything in this movie. I don't find anything that was shown on screen to be frightening, and I think it's also partly the fact that most of this movie just doesn't work for me. From the first scene in this movie is the Georgie scene, where he loses his boat down the storm drain, and I think that scene is very effective, where Pennywise is given the opportunity to try and persuade this kid into doing something. And it is effective. It's an effective scene where you know that he's trying to get this kid, and the kid wants his boat, but he also kind of has this weird thing for the clown where he's like, I don't want to get too close, but he's being really persistent. And it's a really effective scene. And from then on, Pennywise seems to be dumbed down to, boo, I scared you, kind of ghost movie haunted house ride. It never really transformed past that for me because I never got attached to the characters. I never felt like the villain was a valid threat, which is weird. I'll get into that later. And I never felt like he had a character to get behind.
Because when you're alone as a kid, the monsters see you as weaker. You don't even know they're getting closer. Till it's too late.
If you're just seeing this movie, it never quite captures that power that Pennywise should have, where he doesn't ever feel like he could do something. He never feels like he could actually get these kids, because he does these elaborate things where the kids start to realize that it's not real, and then they run away. I mean, the scariest scene in the movie is when he's just talking to a kid, when he's just trying to persuade him to follow him or to come down the storm drain or just reach his arm down the storm drain. That's the scariest moment because he feels like he is trying to get the kids. Every other moment is just like he appears and it feels like he's just trying to spook them.
Now we aren't strangers, are we?
I should get going now.
Without your boat? Here. Take it.
I didn't really care either. The kids never became interesting characters. The performances were all good. I'll say that. I liked all the performances in this movie, but the kids never became characters that I cared about, because every single one seemed like, I have a problem, and that's it. That's their whole character, is that there's a goth girl that has an abusive dad. There's a kid that has a helicopter mom. There's a kid that lost his brother. There's a kid that has a fear of fire, and that's like it. That's really it to all of these characters. They just have one defining trait that never really grows or is developed on in any way. Like, every kid just has this phobia, or like a fear of clowns, a fear of fire, a fear of burning alive, and then that's it. It never takes the characters to the next level where they feel like these fears are justified. They just have them. There's no setup, and there's no payoff to any of their fears. They just are. And that is what made these characters feel like stock, one-dimensional, boring horror movie characters, because they never develop in any meaningful way. They're just kids that swear a lot and make crude jokes at each other that are not funny in the least.
Where's the poison ivy? Nowhere. Okay, well, I'm starting to get itchy, and I'm pretty sure this is not
Do you
good
use
for
the
my...
same bathroom as your mother?
Sometimes, yeah.
Then you probably have crabs.
This is so not funny.
Aren't you guys coming in?
It's gray water.
What the hell's gray water?
It's basically piss and shit, so I'm just telling you. You guys are splashed around in millions of gallons of dairy pee. So, are you serious? What are you...
Doesn't smell like caca to me, senor.
Have you ever heard of stash from the factory? This is so unsanitary. This is literally inside of a toilet bowl right now. In this position right now. Whose sneaker is it?
It's Betty Ripsom's. What if she's still here?
Everything feels very obnoxious, everything feels very forced, and they just don't work. And that is the ultimate issue with it for me, is that I did not care about any of the characters. You have to care about characters in order to feel scared for them, and you have to be scared of the villain to actually get any tension out of it. And both of those were not true for me. I didn't care about the characters because I felt like they were so one-dimensional and stock and boring. And I didn't care about the villain because I felt like he was just a Paranormal Activity spooky ghost that never really does anything.
Float too. You'll float too. You'll float too. You'll float too. You'll float too.
Everything in this movie just feels like it just could have taken one step to be better. And that's the most frustrating part, is that it's a decent movie that could have been a great movie if it just took a few extra steps to make itself better. So in the end, I just don't like this movie very much. I don't think it's that good, but I also don't hate it. It's just right down the middle for me. I'm very indifferent towards it. I wasn't scared. I wasn't engaged. I wasn't into the characters, but I respected the filmmaking, I respected the sets, the costumes, the performances, everything from a technical perspective was done well. So for those reasons alone, I could recommend it. If you're a filmmaker or if you like the horror genre, you might like this movie, you might get something out of this movie, but if you're just going to be scared, you can just put on Paranormal Activity, you can just put on The Woman in Black 2, anything that's sort of paranormal will be basically the same as this movie. So I can't recommend it. I'd probably give it a 5 out of 10. But that's it. That's my thoughts on it. If you liked the video, just give it a like, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye-bye.